But the polls, and let's spend a bit of time on these. Should Reaper Crew be required to unlock trim?
Well, my thoughts are on the document.
Yeah, and I feel like this is going to pass with the community. I feel like this is going to pass.
I agree. I think this will pass easily.
Yeah. And we don't know what the threshold is whether it's going to be a simple 50%, 60%, or old school 70%.
We actually do know. There is no threshold because this isn't a guaranteed content poll.
Okay.
So Modfowl clarified that on Reddit. The intent is they want to get a sense of what the community thinks, but the poll is not the final.
So the poll is non-binding.
Right. That being said, depending on how much, hypothetically speaking, if 100% of people say yes, Reaper Crew should be added to trim, I struggle to imagine they wouldn't add it to trim.
Yeah. But if it's 50-50,
same time, it's 0%. Yeah.
You're going to have a different conversation.
Yeah. So I do think it'll weigh quite heavily on their decision, but it's not a binding poll.
Yeah, I honestly don't know which way I would vote. Tanis, which way would you vote?
I would vote no.
Okay. Questscaping?
No strong opinion, honestly.
Okay. Yes or no?
Fine. No.
Okay. I'd vote yes. Now here's one. This is one of Earth's favorite polls. Should Master Questscape be required to unlock trim? He is adamantly in the yes area on this one.
Yes.
Earth is. And I feel like this one is a yes for me as well, and I feel like this one should pass, but I feel unlike the Reaper Crew one, this one won't pass.
Yeah, I also think it won't pass. Regardless of my personal feelings on whether or not it should pass, I don't think it will.
And that was my my first quick take on that, very much in the same line as you, Tanis.
I guess I'm really the odd man out. I would have voted no too.
All right, Questscaping, you're the one with the most stake in this question.
I'm biased, and I'd say yes.
Okay.
Interesting, because I also have Master Questscape, and I'm part of why I'm leaning no is because I do have Master Questscape, and I kind of don't want all the twitchy completionists to have just gotten it just because.
Right, keeping it kind of as like the lore in Questscape, whereas
Master Questscape is the kind of thing. Until very recently, there's only two reasons you went for it: either you really liked the lore, or you were a hardcore cluer because of the teleports. But they've removed the teleports, so now the cluers aren't doing it.
So it's nice and exclusive. This is my I care about lore cape.
Right, exactly.
And I can see that as well. You don't want people just, space barring through things just to tick off their trim requirements.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this a little bit in my more detailed notes, but philosophically, to me, trim makes sense as I deeply understand the game. And
whereas Master Quest can sit on its own as being I deeply understand quests and lore.
Well, I think in theory, I deeply understand the game should encompass I deeply understand the lore. I think in practice, it's not going to, because the people who want trim are just ticking off boxes.
Yep.
And they end up understanding a large chunk of the game just through sheer repetition.
Yep.
The lore doesn't work that way.
Very true. That's actually a really interesting perspective, and from that case, you might have swayed me to the no category on this. Interesting.
But at the same time, I'm also sympathetic to Earth's position, which is trim should be everything. Trim should have all content, including lore content. So I don't know. I can't decide.
I'm on the trim should have everything camp, but I also think, as far as your point goes about wanting just the Master Quest capers to be really actual caring about lore people, who's going to be wearing that cape? The trimmers are probably going to be wearing the trim comp cape if they, or their comp cape, naturally, because that reflects what they're going for in the game. And outside, particularly some fashionscape or another, the Master Quest capers, people who are going to be wearing that cape are generally the people who want that to reflect what they want to present themselves with a playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You're not wrong.
So it's still mostly you can tell who's actually a quester from their cape, mostly.
Okay. Should Globetrotter be required to unlock Trim? Full Globetrotter. I honestly don't think this is the case, because just consider how many clues you have to get for that.
Yeah, so full Globetrotter requires, I think it's about 4,500 treasure trail points.
Yeah.
Which is quite a significant number of clues.
Yeah.
That being said, it's strange that there's not more clue stuff on Trim. And yeah, they're not in the proposals, the clue achievements are only being added to comp, not to Trim. So it feels odd that there's treasure trails on comp but not on Trim. That feels wrong to me.
Yeah,
that does seem odd.
I'm a firm no in that category. Tannis, Questscaping.
Yeah, I don't think it should be on either of them. Just as too much RNG.
Yeah, same here, honestly.
All right. And then should we consider renaming the comp and Trim capes to better fit the requirements? And here we go.
So this question was a late addition.
Yeah, I feel like this is the thing that opens up the whole comp rework again.
Yeah, because one of the things that comes up a lot in the discourse is, well, what does it mean to be complete?
Bingo.
And there are people who will say the completionist cape is for completing the game. It should have everything. It should be max rune score. It should be true trimmed, which, if you don't know what that is like max rune score plus all logs, like clue logs, boss logs, slayer logs, plus you've maxed out resources in ports. Like you've maxed every number in the game. It is the end boss of RuneScape.
Yeah, and
it's brutal.
Yeah, and with that you start getting into that question of where does everything fit on here, and here you're opening up the can of the worms into why not at this point just do the comp rework?
Like I said,
and this is the pitfall that you get when you start looking into asking for community support on these ideas. You start with a list of comp and Trim comp cape changes, and here we are. A week later, we're almost proposing to change the definition of what the Trim and comp capes are. And if that was the initial part of the plan, fine. But at that point, wouldn't it make sense to kind of just do the full comp cape rework? I don't know.
There's a real rabbit hole you're opening up whenever you
Mm-hmm.
start to prod at this.
Yep. And I was very surprised when I saw Mod Abe asking on Twitter for suggestions for things that should go on comp, because, this is a can of worms.
It's like opening the Constitution of Canada.
It's like opening the Necronomicon is what it is.
I mean, Tannis, I feel like we're going to be back next week talking about this. Where do you want to end with this one this week? Because I feel like we're back in comp rework territory now.
We are back in comp rework territory now. And I don't think the reception's going to be any better than it was then. So, yeah.
Well, we'll just go from where we were last week and hand this off to Mod Doom and CM to decide when it's time to move on from this. I think that's where we go from that.
Yeah, so these changes are due in April, and they're due for a strike in April. The poll will drop at the same time. What happens after that is in Brassica's hands. Brassica's leaves.